And good evening, one and all. I'm not sure how much of a busy one it's going to be today because I completely forgot. Obviously, it's the England game, so a lot of people probably going to be watching that instead of this. And fair enough. Like I say, not the biggest football fan myself. I don't really watch football. I don't really care, to be honest. So we've got who we've got in chat. Oh, we've got Dude in chat. So BowlerHatMan. Evening to you, Dude. And Kajuni K. Yep. No one watches this kickball anyway. What is this kickball everyone's on about? It's just another excuse for politicians to whine about patriotism. But yes, hello. Don't tell that to a proper Brit, man. That's not going to go over well. Well, like I say, I'm not the biggest football fan. Not the biggest football fan, but yes. Hello to more of you popping in now. Welcome. Like I say, as they always say, do remember to hit that like and share button just as you settling in to your chair. Have a too far back. have a squidge down into your chair, get comfortable because we've got some interesting character to talk about today. So, how many of you know who George Galloway is? Like, out of genuine interest, how many of you know who this guy is who we're about to talk about? Because I'm genuinely interested, because obviously I know my channel gets a lot of European viewers, and this guy is not. It'd be interesting to see outside of the UK, like how popular George Galloway is. So we've got some know him. Unfortunately, yes, from Fallen Cure. Keir Starmer's just subscribed. Welcome, Keir Starmer. You join the illustrious ranks of Tony Blair and I think John Burko, who is also subscribed to the channel. So welcome to the channel. You see, but that's you call it the usual troll, Eric, but that's a good troll. That's a troll I can get behind. Oh, so right. So you probably all have appeared to in chat be a bit 50-50-ish. Some of you know who he is, some of you don't know who he is. So we'll just go over essentially who he is. So, Cliff Notes version, George Galloway used to be a former Labour MP. And essentially, he was very, very, very big at the time in Scottish Labour, especially throughout the 80s in fighting against Margaret Thatcher. Like I say, this is why George Galloway has a lot of clout. Never really led the party, but as we'll get to later, definitely had ambitions to lead the Labour Party. Like I say, we'll get to it soon. And that was pretty much his reason almost for existing throughout the 80s. That's how he got his attention. That's how he sort of came to some sort of prominence, especially in Scotland and in his Glasgow seat. Then, of course, you get to the 90s, particularly around about the Iraq war years. He became very, very, very anti-war, which in itself, okay, if you were fine, anti-Iraq war, fine, that's fine. That's it. I was anti-Iraq war at the time as well. So, like I say, we're going to get into situations here definitely on the going over him where he's going to say stuff and I'm going to agree with him, because eventually at the end of the day, Galloway is someone who's on the left. I vehemently disagree with a lot of the stuff and a lot of his actions that he has certainly taken. And primarily, was because he was kicked out of the Labour Party 2000 and I think I want to say 2001. I think it was when he was booted out for essentially bringing Labour into disrepute, or disrepute, shall we say, to say it properly. So, and basically that was for his comments, I believe he made on, was it, I want to say it was like the Abu Dhabi National News or something like that, something really random, that he made these comments on, pretty much calling for, I believe it was for foreign nationals to rise up and attack like the British army. So I think he was telling like the people of Iraq should rise up and essentially attack us as an invading force, something like that. From what I think that's what he said along those lines. Like I say, I generally can't remember. He might have said something else, but it was primarily those comments that he made on that show. He ended up basically before a disciplinary panel. Well, it wasn't. Well, I don't know if that's what they call it in the Labour Party, but essentially that's what it was. It was a panel of other to look into his comments, and they all unanimously agreed that the comments he'd made had brought the party into disrepute, and he was basically ceremoniously booted out of the Labour Party. And ever since then, he has had an absolute axe to grind against Labour. He is non-stop, ever since then, gone after Labour. Any chance he can possibly get to go after them, he will. And one of the things we're going to find out today is that he has had a number of parties. I mean, he had the Respect Party. I think he's had another one, and his new vehicle is now the Workers' Party. And again, he says that, he wants to bring, as I'm sure we'll get into it, he wants to try and bring change to Britain. Again, his entire parties that he's created have only ever consisted of him, essentially. That is all he has done. He also, I believe, at one point where he was running again in another by-election, brought up a false certificate of marriage from one of the Labour MPs, saying that she had been forced into like a false marriage or something like that, from what I remember. Like I say, ever since he was booted out of the Labour Party, Galloway has essentially lost the plot. That's the only way to really say it. And like I say, he, as some people are saying, he very much likes to position himself on the left, but he has some very, very strange bedfellows that he likes to get into. And many of you may or not know, that Galloway is probably one of the most prominent British people to come onto Russia Today. And of course, Russia Today is like the pro-Kremlin news outlet to essentially say everything is okay in Russia, but, you know, look how bad things are elsewhere. And it's essentially pro-Russia, anti pretty much everywhere else to, well, you know, to try and cover up for the things that aren't going, shall we say, too well in Russia. And of course, Galloway is pretty much their guy who they like to reach out to get him on. And of course, he has his own show on there. That's how much, you know, he's appeared on there. He's got to the point where he's got his own show. And I don't know if it would be right to say that he's like, I want to say that he's like the Nigel Farage of the left. Like, if that makes sense. He is out only for himself. He makes a lot of money essentially trying to embarrass, you know, the left. But as I've said multiple times before, and I will gladly, if there are any other lefties out there who don't think that's possible, think what I'm about to say is impossible, the only way the left will ever get into power is through the Labour Party. That's why I joined Labour in the first place, because that's the only way the left get into power. So there is a very, very, he fills a vacuum essentially for essentially people on the left. Especially, I think a lot of people that do support him, I think, are probably quite disenfranchised left people, meaning that they're quite doomery. So they're like, had enough with British politics and just don't care anymore. And George Galloway, who comes along and says, as we are about to see, is very appealing to, you know, those types of people. And like I say, tonight we are probably going to see him say a lot of stuff about policies, and we are going to, at times, shockingly enough, agree with what he's got to say on some of the stuff. I will not be surprised, because as the old saying goes, you know, a broken clock is right, what, twice a day? So don't be shocked if he says something and I suddenly say, yeah, I agree. Now, I think the reasons, again, why he says it versus what I say, when I say, I mean, I support that, would be that that's generally what I believe. I think that policy would be good for the people of this country. Where Galloway is saying it because he wants more attention, and saying that type of stuff gets the left attention, which is again where he's at. He wants left attention and being that type of stuff. So, without further ado, let's jump in to some of his videos. And I think the best one for us to go into, you may have seen us cover this on the, in fact, no, we won't cover that because we covered that on the last Good Morning Walk. That's his live video after the battle in Spain. Or shall we just quickly, we'll quickly cover it, because this just goes to show you how far and how crazy this is.
And it's a lie.
So, where was it? I think we're about 2 minutes into it.
In a council that claims to be too cash strapped to fill in the pothole.
All right. I think it's around here, because Galloway is about to engage in some serious level Trumpism.
Unreasonable.
Tell you what, put it there. And we'll also speed him up. There we go. So I think it's around here he says it.
This parliamentary by-election by the returning officer's refusal to grant a recount when the margin of victory was less than 1%. The law is very clear. I've read it. I may even have helped to write it, that a recount should be granted by the returning officer when the margin is less than 1%, unless that request is unreasonable.
So, first of all, again, we said this last time, there was a recount, not a total recount. There was what was called a batch recount, and the Conservatives asked for it. They asked to recount some of their the Conservatives' areas, and they were agreed. It didn't change their overall vote. So the returning officer said that, again, it was not necessary for a full recount because the areas that the Conservatives had asked to be counted would not change. Hence, there was no full recount. Instead, what a batch recount means is, again, when you go to your voting and poll area, you see, you know, a specific box from that area. That is what they counted, those specific local areas, because that's where they wanted those most Conservative votes. Now, someone's just said here, the bundles recount, yes, as Keir Starmer's just said. So the other reason why he looks quite dazed is that he came third. And of course, Labour came in at literally just 325 votes ahead of the Conservatives. And one of the things that George Galloway said was that he said if Labour don't come in third, he will eat his hat. And as you'll be able to see in a bit, he still has not eaten his hat. Again, why, George? Why haven't you eaten your hat yet? We're still waiting.
In all the circumstances, the last thing that request could possibly be described as is unreasonable. This was peak Kirk Lees. Not even enough chairs for the people in the count to sit on. Not even a cup of coffee after 4 a.m. But these...
Why? First of all, they might not have enough chairs. Generally, they just might not have enough chairs. You know, it happens sometimes. The third thing is, why on earth do they have to provide you coffee at 4 a.m.? I don't think they need to be honest. If you do want coffee, George, maybe you should supply your own thermos, because you've certainly got the cash to do so. I mean, if I was receiving 80k from Russia today a year, shall we say, not a month, but you know, I'd be able to afford my own coffee thermos from that. So
these are, of course, a mere bagatelle compared to the egregious and serious and election-altering antics of the banana republic that is the Kirk Lees Labour-controlled council. So
right there is why we're watching this video. We're not going to watch the rest of it again because there's plenty more to cover. And like I say, we've already covered this video on our Good Morning Walk last week. He has just accused Kirk Lees council of election fraud. He has no evidence to actually back this up, but this is exactly the same thing that Trump did. Not only that, Galloway is now threatening. I don't know if he's actually going to go through with it, because obviously, again, part of his grift, I'm sure, you know, he wants to take them to court. Just wants to take them to court to try and overturn this election. And essentially part of his accusation is that there was election fraud and that Kirklees Council engineered this to essentially get them in. Again, like I say, he's no evidence that that's the case. But there you go. And actually, what we're going to see is, as you can see on this side, oh, hang on, you'll see the chat here next to the video. At the moment, it's blank, but we're just going to skip to the end just so you can see the chat, because the chat's quite interesting. So we've now got to the same to the end, and let me just see if this can make the chat bigger for you so you can see. So as you can see, these are the chats at the end that he got, and immediately the first person in goes, "You lost, get over it, your campaign was disgusting, and I'm no Starmer fan. You know, you almost cost Labour the seat for me, and you know, get over the loss." You know, basically attacking him for losing. So it is good. It is good that from time to time, at least some people in George Galloway's audience become self-aware enough to realize what he's on about, because that's why he was there in Batley and Spen. He wasn't there to actually win the seat. He was there essentially to try and make Labour lose. That's the reason why he was there. Why do we say that? Well, I'm glad you asked that, because he has a video. In fact, he's got a couple. So where is it? I think I might have gone past it. Where's his one about? He did a video about Keir Starmer. Postal votes. That's it. So, well, this is one of his, again, election videos. And of course, as I said, this is the only reason why he was actually there standing in the by-election. He stood there because he wanted to essentially get rid of Keir Starmer. That was his whole point. He wanted to try and essentially engineer a situation where Labour would lose. He could be on the outside laughing about how Labour had lost, to essentially try and engineer a situation where Keir Starmer would lose. And even I had said, if Starmer loses Batley and Spen, it will be bad for him. Now, because he has won it, it has given him some breathing room. It definitely has given him some breathing room, but he needs to act during that time. And as I've always said, right, really, almost since the beginning of this year, Starmer needs to act. He needs to actually start setting out his stall for what he is. We need to know what Starmerism is. Because at the moment, he's so bland, you know, people are just calling it Milibandism 2.0. He's done nothing and said nothing that hasn't brought out you know, there's a policy, or even to tell what Labour are at the moment. And like I say, that's what we need, because I would love to do a live stream like this where we went over like actual policy from Labour. I would love to go over and do a stream, like just do a policy stream where we talk about that. Now, I know that might be really boring for a lot of people, but it would be really good because I want to try and find a way to make policy more interesting and more digestible for the British public, because I think that is one of the biggest failings at the moment in politics, that a lot of politicians, when they talk about policy, don't realize that the second they do, lots of people just turn off. And we need to find ways to cut through all the noise, to cut through the absolute mountain of obvious media bias that Labour has set against it, because pretty much all the newspaper outlets, the most popular, not only news source online, but most popular newspaper is the Daily Mail. Again, do you think they're going to give Keir Starmer a fair shake? And I've said this before, we need to find, or Keir Starmer needs to find his Alistair Campbell. He needs to find someone who can put him out there in a good, positive light. And, I don't know who they'll eventually get or who that will be, but we'll see. Oh, hello from Scotland. Hello to you. So let's see what he had to say about this then.
First Saturday, as they called it, didn't work out all that well for Labour in Batley and Spen here in the by-election. They sent people in from all over the country, and according to the Times this morning, it was, and I quote, a nightmare. Nobody wanted to speak to us, said one senior Labour source. And that source went on, Galloway had been here 45 minutes before us, and nobody wanted anything to do with us. Keir Starmer's already distancing himself from the result of the Batley and Spen by-election, and no wonder, because when he loses this constituency, the drive for him to resign, to stand down and make way for someone less wooden, will be irresistible.
And that's essentially the reason why he stood. That's essentially why he was there. Yes, Ashanti Films is my recommendation. I'm subscribed to him. He's a very, very, very good American history, but very, very good Civil War history as well. Checkmate Lincolnites is a very, very good YouTube series. But yeah, that's the reason why he stood. He didn't stand in this seat at all out of a genuine sense that he wanted to support the people of Batley and Spen. He was there because he wanted to show off that Starmer had lost. That's why he wanted to be there. He didn't really care about winning. Oh, Timberwolf, thank you very much for the support there. Off topic, I know, but can we please talk about John Bercow sometime? We need him as an MP. With the eventual goal of taking Labour leadership. My thought, it is off topic, but I don't know. So I do like John Bercow. I think he's very good when it comes to his topics on, of course, the EU, and he was right to do what he did when he was Speaker. He had a very strong backbone and helped to secure and help keep debate flowing. That's what he did. But at the end of the day, John Bercow, let's not forget, is a One Nation Tory guy. That's what he was before he joined. And to me, he hasn't really talked about anything else policy-wise other than, of course, Britain's mistake of leaving the EU. So my big thing before I would support a John Bercow for becoming a Labour MP or even someone who could actually lead the Labour Party was he would actually have to stand for proper progressive policies within the Labour Party. That's the only way I would support a John Bercow, Labour leadership. So it's like I say, again, we'll have to see what his policies are and if they have actually changed. But again, we'll have to see. Like I say, it is off topic, but there we've addressed it. You know my stance. Like him, okay, he's joined Labour, fantastic. Has he actually changed policies and where he stands? I don't know. Like I say, obviously people do change their policies and their stance, so that is entirely possible. But I have never heard him talk about other policies. So anyway, back to George Galloway. So first of all, that was his big reason why he was in there. That's the only reason he was there, to essentially embarrass Labour and to, well, again, just make sure he gets his foot in the door to embarrass Labour, because as we've said before, he just wants to embarrass Labour. Ever since he got kicked out, he has had an absolute axe to grind against Labour non-stop. Just non-stop. So, where's the other one I was looking at? I think it might be near the top. So, yeah, this is I think it is. So this is him one actually at a hustings event, him campaigning. Of course, this is George about to tell us about how he is personally going to fix the problems that apparently Labour created in Batley and Spen. But remember, who's been in charge of the UK for the past 15 years? Who has actually had more of an impact on Batley and Spen in this seat in the past 15 years? The Labour Party or the Conservatives? And it is the Conservatives. They have been the ones in power for the past 15 years. They're the ones who pursued on the austerity agenda, which has damaged northern towns beyond measure. They're the ones who have continuously stirred up, again, more racial hatred because of their policies, because, again, they never took on seriously the threat of UKIP. Tommy Robinson was out there in Batley and Spen as well. I don't know if he was actually standing for an election, but he was out there whipping up trouble. So there you go. And you are right, yeah. As someone said here again, yeah, that's exactly right. He's basically got a savior complex. He's had one since he's been out of the Labour Party. And like I say, because he lost, I'm still waiting for George for you to eat your hat.
Have been saved from the top of a bus. Batley and Spen has been neglected, left behind. taken for granted. And if there's one message in this campaign.
So this is, again, stealing conservative talking points. You know, Batley and Spen have been left behind, neglected, taken for granted. Who's been the party actually running the country? It's the Conservatives. They're the ones whose policy of austerity led to Brexit, because people felt so, they were losing stuff left, right, and centre. In fact, one of the best quotes about austerity came from just a couple of months ago, from, again, one of my own Barnsley councillors, a guy called, what's his name now? Mike, was it John Houghton or something like that? But I know his second name's Houghton from what I can remember. He basically just said it simply this way: things just disappear. And that's the best way to sum up austerity. Programs that would help support working class people or underprivileged families or kids for those backgrounds would just lose their funding, and they would just disappear. And they'd be left with almost nothing. If you've ever driven through Goldthorpe, wow. Talk about a place that's been heavily, deprived, but Barnsley Council have done their best to try and, stop some of this stuff. They took on huge building project going out that way, which will hopefully bring some massive regeneration to that area. I do hope, that it does bring some serious regeneration to that area. And, doesn't just lead to a rise in house prices, because that's not going to help the area. There are, again, been significant moves to get new jobs and new firms over there, which is, again, so far seems to be working out. The council, for a number of years, has run an enterprise program, which has started up over 600 plus businesses at this point, by the way, funded by EU funding. I once phoned up Nigel Farage and said that as to, a positive about the EU. He just said, so what? 600 businesses in Barnsley that didn't exist before. I'd call that a win. And like I say, because of it's been so successful, other enterprise programs around the UK were set up on the basis of that. So again, Barnsley has quite a good reputation, I suppose, when it comes to sort of local good civic activities. So anyway, we'll continue with this.
That has resonated the most, it's that one, because no one can possibly plausibly deny it.
Yes, we can. We just go, who's been in power for the past 15 years?
Even a Labour candidate who makes videos about the state of the place, even though Labour's been running the place for as long as anyone can remember.
So even if Labour, quote, runs the place, who's been in charge of the central government, been in charge of allocating them resources? Again, it's easily refutable. I don't know what he would say, of course, to being, responsible for that. And dude, I'll have you know, our bus station has been voted consistently the best in the UK. So Yeah. Best bus station in the UK, I'll have you know. Although we do have some very fine pubs. The Old Number 7, very nice pub. And the Secret Italian, very, very good food, as well as passion food as well. It's a very nice Polish food place. Incredible food. Where's the other one now? I can't remember what the other one was. But yeah, Barnsley is very good. Don't put it down. You're only allowed to put Barnsley down if you're from Barnsley. So, yeah, like I say, completely ridiculous because, again, who's been in charge of the central government? Who's been in charge of allocating resources? To which, again, Labour seats have suffered 60 to 70% deeper cuts than Conservative places. And again, what were these places relying on for funding? Well, they were looking for funding from the EU. That's no longer a choice now. So we've got some very, very hard times ahead for some of the most deprived areas in the UK. And the only party that is actually prepared, or at least was prepared to address these issues was, of course, the Labour Party.
Labour complains about the potholes, so big you could sleep in. But they're their potholes, the Labour potholes.
And they've got to have money from the central government to be able to fill those potholes. So if the Conservatives are giving them like 50% less, then of course those potholes aren't going to get filled. Simple as that, George.
That Labour has not attended to. Labour says they now want to reopen a Batley police station. But it was Labour that closed the Batley police station.
I'd question his source on that. In fact, let's look that up. Let's have a look. Here it is. So the police station closed in July of 2018. Who was Home Secretary in 2018? Again, it was a Conservative who was. Who was it? Who was this? Again, Labour were not responsible. Again, it was because of budget cuts, and police stations, not only in places like Batley, were forced to close, but a lot of other small rural police stations were forced to close because of the colossal budget cuts. And if you go all the way back to the very early years of the Lib Dem Conservative coalition, you will get police figures saying how bad these cuts are going to be. And they were right. They were going to be bad. So again, completely provable false statement there by George Galloway.
This is absolutely bizarre. We have a party running, as it were, in opposition to themselves.
Nope. No, they weren't.
Labour sold the Batley police station for the price of a chip shop, a listed building in the centre of Batley. I tell you what, if I'm the MP here come Friday, I'll be opening the books on that property deal, I can assure you.
Wasn't theirs to sell. It was you know, it wasn't theirs to sell. It wasn't their property. It was it was the West Yorkshire Police property that they owned, because it was their police station. Again, you see this all the time. You see this all the time, especially when you know, a Labour council is in. You even see it in Barnsley as well. You know, you've only got to look at the We Are Barnsley Facebook page, and you can see every single time there is they post like a news story or something like that to do with the council. Immediately below it, you see Labour, you know, no, don't vote for Labour, you know. But like, well, who else do you want to vote for? I always bring this up when I see it. The Conservative candidate or the Conservative candidates very often are for more austerity, saying that Barnsley Council spends too much and that they want to bring in more austerity, which probably will not go too well. Because historically, when they've done that, or not even just in the UK, but in places like America, we've seen local councils or like local area leaders, when they followed that policy, go bankrupt very quickly. So again, bizarre comments by George Galloway, but again, you come to expect it at this point. Oh, hang on, was that a... Ah, here we are. So this will be good.
Commiserations, though, it wasn't the...
So this comes from RT. This comes obviously after the by-election. So he's talking to the UK broadcast version of Russia Today, which again is still not, shall we say, 100% on the up and up when it comes to giving the UK fair shake. And again, of course, it's George Galloway. So let's see what George Galloway has to continue of his gripes against the against this. So I'm sure he's going to make continued accusations that, of course, the election was somehow rigged, as he said earlier on the early video.
Commiserations, though, it wasn't the support you and your supporters hoped for, but a very substantial chunk of the electorate did back you.
Well, I'd only been there 4 weeks. They said I was a stranger, a foreigner. I didn't know my way around. And yet 22% of the people voted for me. And we spent less than a tenth of what Labour spent on the election. In fact, they're quite probably in trouble for spending too much. So I think it's a remarkable...
I don't think they brought out spending figures. And as you may very well know, the UK, especially the Conservative government being in charge at the moment, they would go after Labour hard. And if they had enough evidence to overturn the election, which again, if they would, there's no doubt they would go after that to get a win. Like I say, I wouldn't put the Conservatives past it if that happened. But again, yet another baseless claim there by George Galloway.
election result that we polled. The Workers' Party of Britain had never stood in an election before, and look what the result that we got.
And will probably never ever stand. Well, it will stand again, but you'll be the only candidate as usual. Again, bizarre that for a political party that only ever has one candidate on the books. Pretty bizarre that, George.
So I'm very happy about it. It is a surprise that the Labour candidate triumphed. I took 22% of her vote. I took over.
Well, actually, again, you can't say that because we don't know where those votes came from. Now, I've said this before. We've got to really wait and see where a lot of those votes came from. He might be right, and that some of those votes are Labour votes. He might be wrong. Some of those might even be Conservative votes. How do we know that? Again, because we saw the collapse of the Brexit Party, like the UKIP, and this very far right vote. How do we know that George Galloway didn't actually attract that vote? Generally, we don't know. There's a lot of, again, still at this moment in time, a lot of unknowns about where those votes came from and who actually voted for who. Again, like I say, all the data is yet to be collected on this. So, like I say, I am quite interested on it when it gets there. And we'll go over it when we get that information. But again, we've just got to sit and wait for that information at the moment.
For 8,000 of her votes, it's not quite clear where she got them back from.
Well, is it true?
Oh, there we go. There we go. Oh, it's not quite clear where she got them back from. I'm sure it's got nothing to do with the absolute collapse in the Lib Dem vote, perhaps, because, as we said before, a lot of people out there used not only this one, but the Cheshire and Amersham by-election as well, went to might very well have gone and voted for Labour because they didn't want the Conservatives to win. And yes, as someone's just put here, yeah, 23% of the votes went to the Brexit Party in the general election, and he got 22% of the vote in Batley in that election, that by-election. Again, as you are right, it's a very spooky coincidence. A very spooky coincidence indeed. And thank you for that information, Fumstick. Yeah, a very, very spooky bit of information. I wonder where Galloway got all his votes from. Because you are right that now I've seen that information, that does fill in a lot of gaps as where he might have got those votes from.
You're considering a legal challenge?
I've begun one, actually.
So he's begun a legal challenge. Like I say, we'll see what becomes of this. I don't think he has a leg to stand on, to be honest, but we'll see. We'll see, but I don't think he's going to win.
Not just on the overspending, which was blatant and brazen, not just even on the Labour-controlled council, 3 days before the poll, taking down thousands of my posters because the font size on the imprint at the bottom of the posters, not making this up, didn't comply with their policy, even though they can.
So why did they take your posters down? Oh, that's right. They've just said why they took your posters down. And like I say, bear in mind, I've talked to some people who campaigned for Batley and Spen, and they all said the same thing. You couldn't turn around. You could literally not turn around in Batley Town Centre and not see a George Galloway poster. You literally could not turn around and not see his face in Batley and Spen. So that was certainly not an issue. Like I say, at the moment, he's desperately trying to excuse his loss, desperately trying to excuse his loss here. And it's pathetic. He's literally going to Trump levels, saying that somehow the Labour Council rigged the vote. Again, your evidence for that is what? Again, like I say, if this does become a court case, I would love to see what evidence he submits for that. That'll be quite fantastic.
Complied with the law, as they've had to concede. But because I was the victim of relentless fake news in relation to an incident which had absolutely nothing to do with me, with an Islamist extremist shouting and harassing my Labour opponent outside a mosque. I was 100 yards away on the same side of the road as the Labour candidate. She claimed on television, which was endlessly repeated elsewhere, that I had been on the other side of the road laughing when she was being harassed. This is photographically and in video provably a false accusation. And it's a criminal offence to make a false accusation against an opponent in an election. So this result may very well be set aside.
Well, obviously, George.
As any players of Rockstar's game LA Noire will tell you, press X to doubt. Press X very, very much to doubt. Like I say, it was a strange coincidence that George Galloway was there. Doesn't matter what side of the road he was on. Other people have also said that George Galloway was there laughing at her being harassed. I'm not surprised. Wouldn't also surprise me if he was involved with it somehow. Would not surprise me if it came out that he was involved in that somehow. Would not surprise me if that came out. But again, he was there and he was laughing. Like I say, as someone earlier said today, the situations in Kashmir and Palestine are worthy points to bring up. But again, the only way he was bringing them up was because he was systematically targeting and trying to target the Muslim population of Batley and Spen to try and get them to vote for him, not the Labour Party. Because he's had success with that before in Bradford, the last time he won as a MP, and for all intents and purposes, from what we've heard, he was not a very good MP for his constituents in Bradford.
George, these allegations will be looked at, but in the meantime, something that you took votes from the Tories as well, the sort of pro-Brexit votes.
Well,
yep, someone just said there. Strangely, he was, almost had the exact same amount as the Brexit Party had.
Of course, I'm very proud of my pro-Brexit stance. I doubt if it was the case, though it's not quite clear yet. The dust will have to settle and analysis made by pollsters and so on. It is what...
From what someone's just posted in the chat there, it is very, very likely that's where he got his stance from. And again, not surprising, bizarrely enough, that he's pro-Brexit, but there you go. See.
Well, making the point that the electorate was told throughout the campaign that I was polling at 6%. I got 22%. Another example of fake news.
Well, the Labour Party claims that your campaign was the divisive one.
Well, they would say...
It actually was the divisive one. I'm sure George is about to tell us why that was not the case.
That, wouldn't they? Labour thinks it has an entitlement to the support of places that it represents. I heard your package there,
talking about bringing the community together. Batley and Spen has had a Labour MP and a Labour council for a quarter of a century. So I'm not sure why it's taken them so long if these problems exist. No.
Because these problems are not caused. These problems are not caused by them having that. It is caused by, at this point, over 15 years of austerity. So again, like I say, this court case he's going to do is going to be really funny. Really funny. Like I say, there's going to be two ways about this. Either A, he's going to make a big song and dance about it, and he's not going to file one, but he's going to say he did, and that the British establishment didn't want to do it. Or he's going to file it, and then he's going to move to acquit it as quickly as he possibly can, because he does not want he does not want to go through this in court, because he cannot establish any of his claims, which he will have to in court. Like I say, it's his case to prove that his claims he is making are true.
Labour thinks you're not allowed to challenge them. The establishment thinks you're not allowed to challenge them. I've just...
There are always challenges against... There are always challenges against the Labour Party, George. It's just there are numerous reasons for historic, Labour strongholds, just as there are for Conservative strongholds as well. This is the case in almost every country. And they're all pretty much normal historical reasons. Yeah, like I say, I agree with you. I think what we're going to do is we're going to continue covering Galloway till about 8:30, and then I'll tell you what. I'll give you a treat. For the last half an hour, we'll go cover some Jeff Taylor. We'll go see what Jeff has been up to. It's been a while. Been a while since we've seen what Told Jeff's been up to and what's been going on behind the curtain.
There was a big audience for doing so.
What about Sir Keir Starmer? You said he had to go. He's safe for now, though, isn't he?
Yeah, in a way, I'm glad, wearing my party political hat. Labour, led by a desiccated calculating machine gone haywire, who couldn't connect with anyone. No one would follow him across the road, as at least half of all Labour members already know.
What a Conservative! That is almost word for word what you see in in that. That's word for word. Word for word. Oh yes, and someone's been I missed this about the about him claiming about his font size. So apparently he's been warned repeatedly about his election materials font size. Again, like I say, don't think he's got a leg to stand on. Oh, someone sent me a jar of coffee. How about that? Thank you very much for the jar.
Staying in place, it's good for me, it's good for the Workers' Party, but it's not good for Britain, because every...
What party? Like I say, this is just going to be all this is going to be is George Galloway's new vehicle, essentially. He won't run any more candidates. From what I can see, it's just basically set up for him to run and to be the only candidate. So I don't think you can affect too much political change, George, if you are literally the only person in your party. But
country needs an opposition, and every opposition needs a leader. And Sir Keir Starmer is nobody's idea of a leader.
And finally, George, will you be standing at the next general election?
Oh, that's a long way off. We will be standing all over that local authority next May. I've just been in a meeting where we were laying down the code of practice and the methodology that we'll use to pick candidates to fight those elections. So the next elections I'll be in are next May, local elections. I'll not be a candidate, but I'll be leading the campaign.
Oh dear me. Yeah, like I say, political vulture George Galloway there, essentially.
All day I've been saying.
Let's see what we can do next. This one here, gunning for Labour. See what he's had to say here.
So
I also hope that I'm proving at this point what I said right at the start of this stream, that he's basically just there to try and embarrass Labour. He's had an axe to grind ever since he got thrown out. That has been his purpose. So we'll see how we go there. But yeah.
the matter is in the hands of my lawyers, XYZ.
Oh, so again, more proof. I wonder if we can find it. I don't know. Can we? How do we search for laws in like lawsuits in the UK? I'd be very interested to look this up, see if we can actually find one, because I'm very interested to see if he actually has done and whether he isn't all talk and what he's actually put down. Because again, when you do something like this, it's a matter of public record. So if it's out there, it should be easy to find. What would it be under? I wonder. It might be Galloway versus Kirklees City Council. Kirklees Council, maybe. This is. So I can't find any. This is the closest one I can find. And this is from localgovernmentlawyer.co.uk. And this does appear that he actually has, that apparently has instructed a legal firm to do one. So apparently he's instructed XYZ Law to begin legal accusations against UK Labour and several news organisations for sundry breaches of both criminal and civil law. So again, why is he suing the Labour Party? Your complaint here isn't against the UK Labour Party. You're claiming that Kirklees Council were the one who apparently rigged the election, and then they were the ones who took down your posters. Seems a bit of a wrong target, but again, this is entirely keeping with his reason for being, that he has an axe to grind against Labour. So it does appear as if there has been one started, but it doesn't look like he's actually submitted it. So that'll be interesting to keep an eye on for the time being, to see where we get that and see how that goes in the courts. But for the time being, it seems as if he's just instructed a legal firm to start this case. So they may turn around and say, you haven't got a chance. And then that's the end of that. And then we never hear anything else. Possible, but we'll have to see.
Law in Dewsbury, to be precise. Barrister has been engaged, and a tort for breaches of electoral law is in preparation, as well as writs for defamation against specific individuals, particularly Paul Mason, but not restricted to him. And these will be followed, whatever happens in the election on Thursday in Batley and Spen. Because although they're trying to Corbynize me, I'm not Jeremy Corbyn. I fight back. And I have the means to fight back, and I will use them ruthlessly to punish anyone who breaks the law in relation to this election, because I believe that a democracy requires a free and fair elections. And law.
So this was uploaded on the 1st of July, but it sounds like this was done before the election. Yeah, I think this was maybe done before the election. We'll have to see. But again, I'm not a lawyer, but it doesn't make sense why he would be suing Labour UK. Again, he should be suing Kirklees council, and specifically Kim Ledbetter, because those are where the accusations came from. And like I say, I'm not a legal expert, but it seems to me those are the people who you should be suing. I mean, I'm not... You know, I'm not wrong there, am I? You know, those seem to be the wrong targets, because we already said he's suing Labour UK and a number of journalists. Seems to me you seem to have the wrong targets there, George. But again, you know, when you get paid, you know, 80k a year from Russia Today, you know, I'm sure you've got some quite deep pockets to, you know, spend your money on there, George. So.
Awful behavior by the candidates. I have been subject to smear and slander, and now fake Photoshop photographs appearing to show me as armed with automatic weapons and dangerous. 5 separate images have now been published by Labour supporters in this by-election with fake photoshopped guns.
I'm not too sure about that. I'm not too sure about it, but that was, yeah, that was Trumpian to the max. That was very, very, very much, very, very Trumpian. That was. But yeah, kind of bizarre. Kind of bizarre there indeed. But we are now going to go over to GB News because, believe it or not, Galloway appeared on GB News. So we're going to just go off there. I'm going to go over to GB News. Because as you can see, Galloway was on here as well. So, we'll go over this one first. And then we, should we do the short? Tell you what, we'll do the short one first, then we'll go over to the long one, see what he says.
Anybody else who have anti-gay views and who voted for you, do you reject their votes because they're homophobic?
No more than Labour rejected them when they voted for Labour. Our leading campaigner, leading woman campaigner, by the way, in our campaign, was herself gay. I am, as is quite well known, because I quite often have to say it, I'm the holder of a Stonewall Award.
But when you were in Parliament for Bethnal Green and Bow, you abstained on some of the votes about LGBT issues. So I think you slightly exaggerate. But tell me,
not true.
It is true and people can check. But George, let me ask you, are those Muslims wrong to have anti-gay views?
Let me answer. I was a campaigner for gay rights before you were born. I was given a commendation from Stonewall when you were in short trousers. I have an impeccable vote.
Oh, he doesn't like his voting record being brought up there, does he? Doesn't seem to like being challenged on that. Bizarrely, good on that person. What is it, Benjamin Butterworth? Good on him for doing that, because you can see this is getting quite under Galloway's skin. Doesn't like it, because one of the things Galloway loves to hide behind is that he did a lot of stuff. You know, he's been a politician and part of the Labour Party for quite a long time. So, again, he might have a couple of skeletons in the closet people don't like bringing up, like this one, for example, that he abstained on LGBT issues back in the past.
Are you going to answer my question, George?
As can be inspected in the House of Commons on gay rights.
And I have inspected it. George, answer my question. Are those Muslim voters wrong to have anti-gay views?
Yes.
By the way, exactly the same criticisms I think Galloway came out with about that. And to be honest, she was getting, I don't know if you've seen the video when she gets harassed, but they were being very, very aggressive. So, you know, she had every right to just walk away and leave them. You know, I would have probably done the same, you know, myself if I was in her situation.
Okay. And now my next question, because you're always the victim in these, is about Nazanin Zaghari Ratcliffe, who's been locked up in Iran.
Neither are you my interrogator. I wasn't finished answering your last question, so let me do so. I am a campaigner for gay rights long before you were born. That's the answer to your question.
But hang on.
If the people who I don't know and you don't know what the views about gay rights are of the thousands of people that voted.
Well, we do know because we saw the evidence on the streets and we've seen the polling.
Okay, Benjamin, what's your final question for George?
Assumption, because equality covers many fields, of course. Not just gays are entitled to equality.
Nazanin Zaghari.
And their entire
George, can I ask my question? I think we've got the gist of your answer by now, haven't we?
Entirely baseless.
We've got the gist of your answer, which is that you're always the victim, and it's just a coincidence that for 20 years of your political career, you have been surrounded by stirring up hatred against minorities and other people, and that is pure coincidence as far as you're concerned. Now, one victim that's real is Nazanin.
Yeah. Good on this guy for going after Galloway on that. And you are right. Remember, this is GB News, so it probably is a glorified Zoom call. Yeah, good on this guy. I probably disagree with this guy because, again, he's on GB News, but good on this guy for actually going after Galloway on this, because you can tell Galloway does not like being asked this question, and he is right. There have been a lot of people who mysteriously have been very buddy-buddy with Galloway, and he just happens to be the victim in all these situations.
Nazanin Zaghari Ratcliffe, who's been locked up in Iran. Am I going to get the question? I think we've heard your answer.
What it is pure libel.
Well, you say that a lot.
No way of knowing who voted for me, what their religion is, what their ethnicity is.
We know what you do.
Or what their attitude to homosexuality is.
Okay, can I get my question in?
George,
Oh my God, he's so mad. He's so mad. He's seething. He's absolutely seething about this. He's so mad. Yeah, exactly. The big question and the essay of avoidance of an answer. You are, yeah, completely right there, Joan and Kay. But yeah, 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 he's absolutely seething about that. Absolutely seething about that. And of course, he's using threats of course, you know, slander and libel. Just again, it's what he's done in the past. You know, I'm pretty sure if you looked up his case against this, I'm pretty sure he's quite a formidable guy who's threatened to do this to a lot of journalists in the past.
Has one final question.
That's all that you are.
My question is, a real victim is Nazanin Zaghari Ratcliffe, who's been locked up in Iran for 5 years and just got locked up again on the nonsense claims of propaganda activities. Do you condemn Iran? Oh, Galloway is going to be careful now because apart from also appearing on Russia Today, he's also quite a prominent person on Iranian national state television. So, wow. This is, yeah, Galloway here generally being grilled on what possibly maybe he thought was meant to be an easy softball question. Yeah, I'm the same, Timberwolf. I'm exactly the same. Never thought I would see the day either. So let's see. Let's see his let's see how Galloway gets out of this one.
Is that my fault? Why are you throwing that at me?
Because you defend so many of the people in that parts of the world, and it's a question that you can ask any politician. It's a relevant political question. So do you condemn Iran?
You're some racist. What, they all look alike, do they?
No, George, you're a politician, and that's a relevant question about a British...
Okay, Benjamin, let George answer. Let George answer the question.
This lady. What are you talking about, man? Dan, I appeal to you. Get this man under control.
Why don't you answer the question?
Well, Benjamin's asked the question now. We're a broad church here, George.
What do I have to do?
Do you condemn Iran?
Of Nazanin. I've been trying to get her out, you half-wit.
In what way?
in ways that are none of your business.
Dave, you can't tell us.
Only.
Okay, that was more funny than I was expecting. That was more funny than I was expecting. I've been trying to get her out in more ways than one. Okay, what ways were you trying to get her out? I can't tell you. Oh my word. Oh man, wow! I didn't. I'm glad we went on this one. he is so angry. He is so mad. So mad. So mad. And good on this guy for it. He's literally holding his feet to the fire. I never thought we'd actually be seeing GB News doing something good, but tell you what, credit where credit is due. Good on Benjamin Butterworth for holding Galloway's feet to the fire. I salute you, sir. I salute you.
And are the business only of her family. I met her family on television, and I've been trying to get her out ever since. Pipe down. I've had enough of you.
Okay. And do you still support
Benjamin,
Assad?
that was your last question.
Of course, gets in that last boot. Gets in that last boot. Do you still support Assad? Class act there. None other from, surprisingly, GB News, of all places. Of all places. Good on Mr. Butterworth there for literally sticking it to George Galloway. Because I'll tell you now, oof. Yeah, was not expecting that when we went on that. But as we said, time to go from one comedy show to another. Oh, so ready for our last 30 minutes together. We're going to go over some Jeff Taylor. But if you have enjoyed the stream this evening, please do remember to hit that like and share button. It does help out the channel a lot. And of course, down below there are links to my Patreon page, as well as a one-off donation link called Buy Me a Coffee, where you can buy me a coffee. And thank you to all the people who do support the channel that way. So thank you very much for the support. So, what are we going to watch? What are we going to watch? Well, we can't. You've seen it there. We can't not watch it. We can't not watch it. We can't not watch it. We need some of that protocol action. Oh dear. So Northern Ireland has been thrown under the protocol bus, and quote, UK lockdown really ends in July. Again, the pure tactical wit, shall we say, of Jeff Taylor. But before we begin, we've got to speed him up because Jeff talks awfully slow in these videos.
Hello there. So it's official. The people of Northern Ireland have been thrown under a bus by the Irish Border Protocol.
How? How do you do it, Jeff? How do you do it? How does he do it? How does Jeff do it? Just to get it in excruciatingly slow motion there.
Under a bus by the Irish Border Protocol.
Oh wait, have we got volume? Oh, hang on. Have I hold on, have I done it right? Hold on. Hold on. There we go. We should have volume now.
It's official. The people of Northern Ireland have been thrown
Here it comes.
under a bus by the Irish Border Protocol.
How does he do it? How?
As per usual, please like, subscribe, and comment below. This should be explosive news, but it seems...
Oh, explosive news. Oh, thank you very much there, Nico, for the super sticker. Thank you very much.
Seems the union of the United Kingdom is of little value these days, especially where Northern Ireland is concerned.
Now, here's the thing. Is Jeff going to be an honest actor here and say that the reason for the Northern Ireland Protocol is Brexit, Boris Johnson, and the Brexiteers who he has continuously supported on his channel? Or is it the EU? Place your bets now. Oh, and we've got someone in Twitch chat. Welcome. Can't think of a name. Good evening to you. We're just enjoying our a traditional visit to Jeff Taylor. If you don't know who this man is, whew, strap in. Strap in. It's about to get fun.
Further, there is still talk about the UK dynamically aligning with the rules from Brussels because of the Irish Border Protocol, all over the so-called sausage wars. And no...
Let's put it in the plainest possible terms we can put it. The whole reason that the Northern Ireland Protocol exists in the first place is to make sure that the Good Friday Agreement is not damaged, because you cannot under its rules, have a border, a hard border, which you've got to have, between the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland. So, because we have left the Single Market and Customs Union, we've got to have a hard border somewhere. The only place you can put that border is in the Irish Sea, effectively leaving the Northern Ireland still in the EU. Brexiteers have still yet to explain how they get around that. And remember, the protocol was not an invention of the EU, it was a British invention. Just bear that in mind throughout this entire video.
Oh, this one is not about Matt Hancock, but more on that in a minute.
Ooh, about to have a pop at Matt Hancock, are you, Jeff? Ooh.
I recently talked about a judicial review action being taken in the Belfast High Court against the Northern Ireland Protocol,
which was thrown out because the Brexiteers that were doing it were using an almost 100-year rule, a 100-year law rule to try and do this, and they got thrown out. There it is, Matt Hancock, controversial statements. Just saying his name, Matt Hancock. Rumor has it, if you say it 3 times behind a door, he'll appear behind. He'll appear from it.
which has put a border in the Irish Sea separating Northern Ireland from the rest of the UK. This legal action has today been rejected by the High Court, but in the process, the judge also ruled that the part of the 1800 Act of Union talking about the people of Northern Ireland being equal to those in the rest of the UK has been repealed by implication.
The big problem he's just mentioned there, he's mentioned an 1800 Act of Union. Back in the 1800s, it wasn't just Northern Ireland that was part of the UK. It was sort of the rest of Ireland as well. So, seems a bit ridiculous to do this. He's also not going to mention, because I can already guarantee, he's not going to mention the fact that the judge also brought up the fact of supersedence. The fact that there are newer laws than, shall we say, the 1800 one, namely the Good Friday Agreement of 1997 or Belfast Agreement, depending on where you fall on the border, supersedes that. Also, the judge did mention, again, what he's about to say about the people of Northern Ireland maybe being ignored and maybe it being a larger constitutional issue than the Brexiteers wanted it to be.
Despite the long-held view that a constitutional act like the 1800 Act of Union cannot be subject to implied repeal. And one commentator...
That's false. No act is unrepealable because no previous parliament can tie the hands of a future parliament. This is why. How do I know this? Because this came up again a couple of years ago. The Brexiteers were threatening to try and pass a law that would forbid the UK from ever rejoining the European Union. That scared with the Brexiteers at the time of there being a second referendum, and that their project, their precious project, being reversed. They wanted to try and pass this rule, and of course they had to be reminded at the time by John Bercow, nevertheless, you can't pass a law or an act that ties the hands of a future government, which is essentially what they were trying to do by essentially trying to pass a law saying that the UK is forever forbidden from rejoining the EU. Might be, you know, something worth mentioning there, Jeff.
For the Unionist Voice, Jamie Bryson wrote, "The enormity of the path chosen by Mr. Justice Colton cannot be overstated. He has purported to make new constitutional law in the United Kingdom, which has no grounding in any legal authorities."
Yes, it does, because there are newer laws, not just the, again, Act of Union of 1800, again, shows how ridiculous they are in replying to this. But again, there you go. New laws supersede old laws. Shocking, Jeff, isn't it? But that's how our system works.
And one of the litigants in the case, former Brexit Party MEP Ben Habib, has already tweeted, "Heads up, we will be appealing this politically charged judgment on the protocol. There is..."
He still can't say it. How can you say protocol that wrongly? If I try to say it wrong, I can't say it wrong. It's unbelievable.
"No way we will rest, knowing the union of the United Kingdom has been broken."
Yeah. Did anyone tell Habib that he was responsible for breaking it? And the fact that, you know, the people of Northern Ireland voted to remain in the European Union, and that maybe the fact that two parts of the United Kingdom voted in favor to stay, and that maybe there should have been allowances for us to stay. Again, like I say, so much stock gets put in the 2016 referendum as if it's like this monumental moment that should be forever frozen in time. Again, that's not how politics works. People are allowed to change their mind. Even if you lose, be it a referendum or an election, you are allowed to go on making the argument. You know, the opposition, again, to quote Ian Hislop, doesn't just sit there and just say, "Oh, we lost. See you in 5 years' time for the next election." That's not how the system works. But again, the shocking, there you go. Of course, that is definitely your first time seeing the man, so it is a bit fair. But I have been told apparently COVID has been particularly hard on him, so I can't really give him too much jip about his appearance.
And Habib has a crowdjustice.com campaign running to support it. Link in the descriptions box below.
Oh, and let's see how much that has raised. It's out of a matter of interest. Oh my God. So it's raised over £92,000 for a target of £155,000. Again, it's all part of the Brexiteer plans to try and end the Northern Ireland Protocol. And even let's say, for sake of argument, they win this and the Northern Ireland Protocol is declared illegal. How then do you solve the problem of there not being a hard border between North of Ireland and the Republic of Ireland? Because this is the biggest problem about the Brexiteers. They continuously make problems where there was none before and then expect other people to solve their problems. So unfortunately, it looks like that might be funded. It might not be, but they will probably lose because, again, like I say, law of supersedence. Northern Ireland Protocol is essentially it's international law. It's already been made law, so it supersedes the 1800s law at this point. So again, Brexiteers trying to find solutions to problems that don't really have to be a problem in the first place because they're the ones making it a problem. There you go.
As well as Ben Habib, the case was brought by Belfast Agreement architect Lord Trimble, former Labour MP, now Baroness Kate Hoey, former DUP leader Arlene Foster, former UUP leader Steve Aiken, and TUV leader Jim Allister. And they were joined by another case brought by Pastor Clifford Peebles, whose case was also rejected, all of them hoping to get the protocol overturned.
And again, I asked the same question. If they had somehow succeeded in overturning the protocol, how then do you solve the problem of not having a hard border between the Republic and North of Ireland? Again, the Northern Ireland Protocol was specifically created bearing this in mind by the UK government. And like I say, if this is your first time hearing about the madness of Brexit, welcome to my past 5 years, because it gets a lot worse. It will get so much worse.
Today, Mr. Justice Colton ruled that the protocol and associated Brexit withdrawal legislation conflicts with but supersedes the 1800 Act of Union.
Thank you, Jeff. Conflicts but supersedes. In law, supersedence matters far more than some old law of 1800s than anything else. So the fact that the Northern Ireland Protocol supersedes this 1800 law, which, by the way, is almost 200-year-old law that they're trying to use to break the Northern Ireland Protocol, supersedes it. Case closed.
But further, that by removing the right of the people of Northern Ireland to vote on their own future, the protocol somehow does not breach the 1998 Good Friday Belfast Agreement, nor the human rights of the people of Northern Ireland. This will concern and anger many people in the...
The people of Northern Ireland were quite overwhelmingly in favour of remaining in the EU. So I think their voices were quite well heard. And in fact, I'm looking forward to the times when the businesses in Northern Ireland are doing a lot better than the British businesses on the mainland, because they're still in the customs union and single market. Going to be, I'll tell you now, 2022 in the UK, going to be very, very interesting. Very, very interesting indeed. Because if you may remember from the botched Norway negotiations we had a couple of months ago, Norway came out and said that the UK government was not interested in speaking to the EU until next year. Now, why might that be? Why might that be? Got to be a reason somewhere.
UK. And today, the last question at PMQs came from DUP politician Ian Paisley Jr., who asked, today the Belfast High Court has actually found that the protocol does conflict with the Act of Union, though it does not break the law.
Case closed. Act of supersedence. Doesn't break the law. Job done.
That it has repealed aspects of the Act of Union, which is in direct contravention to the commitments that this government has actually made to the people of this kingdom.
The people you should be angry about at Ian Paisley Jr. should be not only the Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, for making promises, because remember, he was the one that infamously said there will never be a hard border in the Irish Sea. Literally a month later, he goes and creates one. And, of course, the Brexiteers, like Katie Hoey, who said Northern Ireland will not be a problem. This will be simple. It will be sorted. No problem. It's insane, but there you go.
The Prime Minister will be aware that litigation is still ongoing in the High Court in England on a commercial case that could result in the loss of earnings claim of hundreds of millions of pounds by British businesses trading in Northern Ireland. Under Section 8 of the Withdrawal Agreement, the Parliament here is sovereign. The judgment today confirms that Parliament is sovereign. Prime Minister, you have a solid majority on your benches. Have you the will to now finish the job, to reverse the mistakes of the Northern Ireland Protocol?
And then replace it with what? Like, what do you replace it with? What do you replace it with? If you get rid of the Northern Ireland Protocol, what do you replace it with? Because you've got to replace it with something. Because the Belfast and Good Friday Agreement explicitly say you cannot have a border between the North of Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. This is a simple concept to grasp, but apparently not so for the Brexiteers.
To seize the moment and to defend the Union and to unilaterally fix it once and for all and put Northern Ireland out of its commercial, social and political misery. To which the PM Boris Johnson said that the government would study the ruling in detail, but that he could give his assurance that nothing will affect the position of Northern Ireland as part of the United Kingdom, and we will make sure that we uphold that. So
Boris Johnson is saying there, no, we don't want to get rid of the Northern Ireland Protocol. Don't be silly. Don't be silly. No one wants to get rid of that. Again, Brexiteers creating problems where there were none to begin with, saying that this would be easy, problem solved. But of course, again, has not been the case.
I sound the engine of a bus being revved up, especially.
Really, really, Jeff. Really, you hear that engine. You hear that engine being revved up. Boris Johnson already did that 6 months ago. You know, this is what they were voting for, and yet now some of the Brexiteers don't even to appear to realize what they voted for.
Here's the can of the much vaunted sausage war over the import of sausages and chilled meats from the rest of the UK into Northern Ireland has today been kicked down the road for a couple of months before kicking off all over again in September.
October. But that's fine. Like I say, the sausage wars are fully prepared to kick off again in October. So, you know, prepare your Anderson shelters for sausage wars, because I'm sure we'll be, you know, having bangers and mash in abundance in those times. So,
The UK government said, chilled meats from Great Britain, such as sausages, which would otherwise be prohibited in Northern Ireland, will continue to move from Great Britain to Northern Ireland after the UK and the EU agreed to extend the grace period, allowing this until the 30th of September. So
well, that's not completely true. The UK unilaterally decided, without consulting the EU, that they were going to extend the deadline, which incredibly annoyed off the EU because, hey, you're meant to go to them and consult them about it. To which they said at the time, if they had been consulted, they were more than willing to do that. But because the UK wanted to unilaterally do this, they ramped up tensions on purpose. Not the EU, the UK did this. They ramped up tensions on purpose. To which the EU then went, okay, as a gesture of goodwill, we'll allow you that 3 months extra extension. Because, you know, apparently you said you need time to solve these problems. What solutions does Lord Frosty have for the sausage wars? There aren't going to be any. So, and this is only going to get worse because in October, we start to see the first full-scale implementation of checks on the UK side of the border. So October is going to be a very, very, very busy month. It is going to be disaster. But it is going to make for one heck of a Halloween movie. I'll tell you that now. I'll tell you that for nothing now.
The thing will go quiet again until the end of September, at which point expect to see the EU coming out of its corner, swinging its protocol sledgehammer once again.
Yes, because, well, it's October, Jeff, but that's what they have to do. That's what we agreed to. There's going to be checks. There's going to be checks. And it has to be in the Irish Sea, unless Brexiteers have a magical solution to all this. Maybe we'll be able to ferry goods across with all those unicorns that are meant to be here somewhere.
Now, some of the wording in the UK government's statement about this worries me. The government proposed to the EU that it would be sensible to extend the chilled meats grace period on certain conditions, and detailed discussions have followed between the government and the Commission. Crucially, the agreement does not require the rest of the UK to align with any changes in EU agri-food rules during the grace period. There is no dynamic alignment. And that...
So, one of the things that we've constantly worried about, of course, is the changing of our regulatory standards, because the Conservatives have always said that they intend to diverge, but they always insist, well, they don't know what they're going to diverge on yet. And that's what worries a lot of businesses, because the second we do start to diverge, then it makes it even harder for British companies to trade with the EU. But again, we're going to have to see what happens. Like I say, this could just be an empty threat. I don't know how serious they are. But again, we're being run by free market fundamentalists who are complete ideologues at this point. So, as we come up to our finishing point, yeah, unfortunately, we've run out of time to finish for this video. But yes, thank you so much, one and all, for joining us as normal for our normal Wednesday live stream. Thank you very much for your joining us. Please do remember to hit that like and share button on your way out. And of course, if you would like to support the channel, then there are links down below to my Patreon page or my One Nation link, Buy Me a Coffee, where you can, well, buy me a coffee. And thank you very much to all the people who do support the channel. Your support is very, very much appreciated. But on that, like I say, thank you for joining us as always. We'll see you next Saturday morning, hopefully for a good morning walk. Hopefully the weather will be a bit more favourable for us. I think we are set for good weather. Let me just check. Saturday. Oh no. We're set for rain for Saturday, so this might be an umbrella. Definitely might be an umbrella. Yeah, showers early. Yeah, showers early, chance of winds, chance of rain 50%. Right, so it might be, we might get some rain, but we'll be out. I'll tell you what, we'll go into overtime. Tell you, we'll finish this Jeff video before we go. Then we'll finish the video. We'll go into overtime. We'll finish the video.
Worries me because the no UK-wide dynamic alignment with the EU bit only applies to this short 3-month extension. What it does not say is there will never be dynamic alignment. And Lord Frost said, "We are pleased we have been able to agree a sensible extension on chilled meats moving from Great Britain to Northern Ireland, one that does not require rules in the rest of the UK to align with future changes in EU agri-food rules."
And if we don't change those rules, then it's going to make it harder for farmers and other people involved in the agri-food industry to sell their goods into the EU. Like I say, this is we're very much being primed for that US trade deal, the golden goose of Brexit, to get that UK trade deal in. It's what they wanted all along. They were very, very open about it.
Once again, where's the unequivocal assurance that there will never, ever again be Brussels and ECJ control over UK affairs? And what
there technically already is with the Northern Ireland Protocol, but hey, Jeff doesn't really worry that much about Northern Ireland, apparently.
What about upholding UK food standards and the EU deciding to...
The EU laws became UK food standards. Hence, we would hold them up. Because guess what? People in Parliament voted for them. Shock horror.
Revert back to the pre-BSE practice of feeding animal remains to other animals as cheap feed. No wonder the EU is worried about UK meat going into Northern Ireland, because they might opt for UK meat that has not been fed on other animals rather than EU meat that has.
First of all, that, again, wonderful scare tactic by Jeff used there from the Daily Express, saying that all these farm animals are going to be fed, the remains of other animals. Doesn't happen for all animals. And again, those remains have to be at a certain standard. We got very, very, very badly hit during the BCSE crisis because, again, our farmers were being very, very naughty and skipping standards. Hence why Europe hated us, especially all sorts of farmers on the continent hated us for the BCSE crisis, because it could have almost wiped out entire herds of, cattle, as it did in the UK. Luckily, they got over it. In fact, there's let me just get it because it's a good book. So this by Stephen Clark is 1,000 years of annoying the French. It's very, very good. Very, very good. If you want some good reading, very, very good. And indeed, and get to it. Let me see where it is. I'm gonna have to try and pick it out. I can't remember where it is. And oh yeah, by the way, the French version is called 1,000 Years of Annoying the English. French banking industry, 100 Years War, Joan of Arc, Calais, Mary Queen of Scots, French Canada, Charles II, Champagne, Voltaire, America, American independence, India, Tahiti, guillotine, French Revolution, Napoleon. Well, food, Victoria's food. No, that's not it. How Britain killed off the last French royals. That's actually quite a good story. Dirty Bertie. World War I, World War II. I'm trying to find it somewhere, but there's a really good quote in here about the BCSE crisis. Anyway, I'll have to find it another time. But yeah, honestly, really, really good book. Really, really good book. Go out and buy it. Not only that, but if you are new to Brexit as well, let's do some book pushing. If you really want to know and get to the root of some of this Brexit nonsense, then I definitely recommend this book by Ian Dunt. It's called Brexit: What the Hell Happens Now. And this is the first edition, the 2016 version, and there was a 2017 and there was a 2018 version. So definitely look and try and get the most up-to-date version that you can. Well worth it if you want to try and understand all this mess. Because I'll tell you what, Ian Dunt predicted so many of the situation that we are now in because of this in here. So if you want to learn some more about Brexit, get this book. If you want a really good sort of British / French history of foreign affairs, this is also very good, and it's also very funny as well. Stephen Clark, very good author. So anyway, that ends my book recommendations.
Moving on. So, July the 19th is to be Freedom Day, after all, when all COVID restrictions are lifted for the last time, forever.
Never say never, as they say. I think it's completely foolish for Boris Johnson to go out and say that these restrictions will never come back and that we'll never go into lockdown. Because if we are unlucky enough, generally mean this, if we are unlucky enough to get a mutation of the COVID-19 where it ends up mutating and it's immune to vaccines, then we're right back to square one. And won't the rest of the world love the UK if we're responsible for that? Yeah, so much of this could go wrong. So much. And this has been the Conservatives, especially the free market fundamentalists, since day one. They have been against the whole idea from lockdown since the very, very beginning. Why? Because they're free market fundamentalists. They do not want any government intervention. So they were against furlough, they were against the government intervening and helping people out self-isolating. They just wanted people to essentially work and die. Essentially, that was their whole modus operandi, essentially.
Or maybe not. Yes, that's right. The 3 weeks to flatten the curve has turned into 2 years to flatten the economy. But hey-ho, let's just forget about that one for now, because that...
And the effects that Brexit might have had on that. And of course, Jeff and other Brexiteers will have a field day for years saying that the faults of Brexit were never Brexit. It was COVID. It was COVID. Don't be silly. It was COVID.
That's in the past, and we will never have to go back to that dystopian nightmare of lockdown ever again. Also,
dystopian nightmare. Dystopian nightmare. Just, basic public health principles for every pandemic, reaching all the way back to like the beginning of time, back to like ancient Rome, even ancient Greece understood the importance of having lockdowns.
So we're led to believe. But contracts are being renewed as I speak for more COVID marshals, more tests, more vaccines, and extending the use of testing stations and the like. So I, for one, am not holding my breath.
Neither
am
I,
people
Jeff.
have, for the most part, been compliant. They have not questioned the government course of action and have done as instructed, either out of fear of COVID-19 itself, fear of peer disapproval, or fear of the government. However, now that most of the adult population of the UK has taken the pharmacia, and the jib-jab jamboree is very soon heading to our schools without the batting of eyelids, it does look like the argument for maintaining any further social restrictions has very little support from the public, and also from the media who tell the public what to think and believe. That's right, the people have lined up and been good little boys and girls. Except for those few horrible little blighters who marched upon London in their millions, sorry, BBC dozens, to oppose the government on this matter, yet received zero...
BBC dozens. More than just the BBC were reporting on how big those protests were. They were quite big. They were quite worrying as well. Yeah. Like I say, this is what happens when you're, what is it, the American drugs advert? This is what your brain is like on drugs. This is what your brain looks like. This is, you get a mini Jeff Taylor inside you. Speaking all this, but yeah, like I say, I am very worried about our government's approach to lifting some of these lockdown rules. Like I say, I am very, very worried. We have to hope that this all goes well. We really have to hope this all goes well. And we can't, and that's even more worrying us because of the type of government we've got. But there you go.
Zero coverage by the press other than to be framed as nasty criminals breaking social distancing rules. Whilst the man responsible for putting social distancing rules in place, one Matt Hancock, was busy attacking the Pink Fortress. And such was his belief in the importance of his own social distancing rules, he decided to break them. Yes, 3 weeks to flatten the hump now becomes a few months to hump the rump. Just like Professor Neil Ferguson.
Oh my God. So this is the first time I'm genuinely actually laughing at a joke Jeff has made. Not because it's terrible, because it's actually somewhat funny. That's very, very dad humor, that there, Jeff. It's very, very dad humor.
whose own conviction in social distancing and lockdown rules was so great that he also thought it was okay to break the rules because that's how much it actually mattered to him when the opportunity of a bit of gland-to-gland combat was on offer.
So I think he's just going to start attacking Matt Hancock from this point. Yeah. In fact, tell you what, we'll speed it up even more because he's just going to attack Matt Hancock. Then we've already been there, done that, got the t-shirt.
So, as a top politician, Matt Hancock really was, in one sense anyway, an organ grinder. And according to some, he also used taxpayer money to employ his own personal pencil sharpener, who also provided horizontal refreshments as required, if you get my drift. Yes, children and grandparents would die alone and be unable to have their parents or grandchildren at their side when they passed away. Couples who had been together for their entire lifetimes, unable to say goodbye for the final time. But it's okay for Matt Hancock and Neil Ferguson to break lockdown and social distancing rules to engage in a bit of stuff in the muffin. If that doesn't make you angry and question what has been going on, then nothing will, and it's too late for you. But maybe the thought that the rules will now be relaxed for the wealthy and powerful to enter the country and sidestep quarantine rules and the like, as long as they will be bringing an economic benefit with them, will make you ask a few questions. The first being, why now, if the lockdown is to end so soon and be so irreversible? The rich and powerful have always managed to use money to get what they want, but now they will also have the law on their side. Laws that you and I have to...
Incredible here that Jeff is going on quite an anti-capitalist bent here all of a sudden. It will tell you it will be so funny if Jeff all of a sudden became socialist. We'd lose so much in the form of fun content, but I'd actually be quite pleased if Jeff ended up becoming a socialist.
obey, but they do not. Is that the new levelling up we keep hearing about? So what's your opinion on the Northern Ireland Protocol and lockdown ending? Please like and comment below.
And of course, that's the end of Jeff. Not a lot really to say. Of course, as usual, Jeff is parroting right-wing talking points, especially the Brexiteer talking points, talking about the Northern Ireland Protocol, and he's of course flat wrong. And of course, as we said before, if you remove the Northern Ireland Protocol, where do you end up putting the border? Because you cannot have a border between the Republic and the island. Simple as. Of course, Brexiteers don't have the answer. And of course, you never know. Let's have a look at his comments. Oh, that's interesting and got a lot of up likes as well. Johnson has betrayed those who voted for Brexit. That's very interesting. And I've often said this before. We covered this again a couple of weeks ago about the fact that people who voted for Brexit, the Brexit supporters, are not going to get what they want. You know, Brexit is not going to be the balm that solves their problems, but that's what Brexit was sold as. So sooner or later, there is going to be an immense sense of of anger that Brexit has not delivered what they wanted. That could be quite interesting when that happens. That could be very interesting when that happens. So that's generally at the moment. Yeah. Thank you very much. Like I say, we did go into overtime just to finish Jeff Taylor videos, and of course, you know, you've had a couple of book recommendations as well. But yes, like I say, thank you very much for you all joining us this evening. Like I say, I know you had other options if you wanted to go watch the kickball game. I certainly wasn't watching it. Like I say, I don't really care one way or the other if England win or not. Like I say, thank you for joining me. Thank you for joining me through this adventure through Galloway land, and then we finished off with some nice nice little Jeff Taylor just to finish us off. So if you do want to see me live again, I will be live on Saturday morning. Again, weather depending. We'll have to see how it goes. I will let you know, of course, whether the Good Morning Walk will be called off, depending, of course, on what happens with the weather. If the rain is absolutely tipping it down, then I ain't going. I ain't going out. And we may have to unfortunately call it off, or maybe we'll have a Sunday morning walk instead. We'll have to see. We'll have to see which way the chips lie, as they say. But thank you, everyone, as always, for joining us. Please do hit that like and subscribe button on your way out. And, of course, hit the share button as well. Do all that crazy stuff. It helps us out. Thank you all again for joining us. Like I say, there are links below should you like to support the channel. And as always, thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you all next Wednesday for... I don't know. I haven't decided yet. I don't know who we'll end up covering, but who knows what will happen. As I always say, have fun, and I'll leave you with the smiling face of Jeff Taylor.